Greetings, dear ones, dear Sangha. On Sunday, May 16th, Hartwell will hold a refuge ceremony during Dharma. Sangha members who've already participated in a ceremony are welcome to participate and repeat the 5 vows. Please wear white and bring a flower or an incense offering. Retreats coming up on Zoom, May 15th, Letting Go in 4 stages with Martine Bachelor. Wild Heart Spring Retreat with Andrew Chapman and Reverend Mickey Noche on May 24th through the 31st, 2021. Registration information is on the website. Venerable Panavati is offering a new book study beginning on Friday, May 14th, at 4 p.m. The book is to be announced. If interested in joining, you can register on the Heartwood website under Book Study. The Novena prayers are now occurring monthly every 3rd Thursday between 5:45 and 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We invite you to join us on our YouTube page. Please send your confidential prayer requests for yourself or loved ones, including your pets, who are sick, suffering misfortune, or departed, to prayer@heartwoodrefuge.org. Fully vaccinated Sangha members are invited to Heartwood on Sunday Dharma in the Dharma Hall. We will have Bodhi Hall set up for any overflow. Thrifty Treasures, Heartwood's new endeavor, will help us to continue our mission and social projects as Heartwood has always done and continue to do. We are looking for volunteer support. To volunteer, email thriftytreasures@gmail.com. Please visit, like, and share. Know our Facebook page at Thrifty Treasures WNC. Donations and Dana, we thank you so much for all the ways you help to enrich the whole Heartwood community. Please visit the Heartwood homepage and click on Giving options to see all the ways that you can help support Heartwood. Follow, like, and share Heartwood on all social media to help spread the Dharma.
Good afternoon. I have to say that I just got some very, you could say bad news, you could say troubling news, or you could say good trouble. It's not what news comes to us from the outside, from the world. It's how we process and hold that news, like on the inside. That really matters. Could I get you all to move to these 2 chairs right here? Then I don't have to turn my head so far. I'm having a little difficulty on one side.
Can you go further?
No, that's good. That's good. Mm-hmm. And I may or may not tell you what that is. It just depends on how the talk goes and what kind of signals I get. Last night I felt inspired to really do a historical search. Because we pick up the suttas, the sutras, the teachings of the Buddha, the historical texts that have been left that speak of his enlightenment and the path leading to that. And we can get so caught up in that story that we lose the essence of the practice, which is get it for yourself. I mean, I'm all happy for the Buddha and all of that. But the thing is that until I have the release, it's just his story. You know? And so when one embarks upon a practice, they definitely have to have confidence in the experience, the direct experience of the one who has shared something with them in such a way that they could see the truth of it in a very profound manner, that they feel inspired and encouraged. And certainly the Buddha was probably a very charismatic figure. And the way that we present today might not really exemplify his manner of arousing. You know, he uses certain words of like arousing, encouraging, and we want to make this understanding so outwardly plausible, a little folding of the hands, always calm, you know, just always in control of every situation, nothing bothers you, that I think we have distorted and we have in some aspect denied the very teachings, and we've made it into something like we've given people a view of how to be Buddha-like. And in the process, something has been lost. Really the capacity to touch and to see and to know and to be with reality as it is, without some kind of contrived relationship to it. And so we have this facade as teachers, as serious practitioners, as monastics. Like in the world, they used to tell us in business, never let them see you sweat. And whenever I would go anywhere like for a meeting or something, you know, I would, even when it was your meeting and you called me to your place, I took charge of it, because the one who was in the control of the meeting was most likely the one who was going to win, get what they wanted, get the upper hand, intimidate the other. And so these were things that we learned in the world, but they have no place in our spiritual practice. That's just what we learn in the world, how to survive, or how to appear to be confident, all these things. But when you really start penetrating and understanding, lessening your opinion or your view on the information that's coming in through the 6 sense gates, and you have applied yourself diligently to the studies and to the teachings of the Buddha, then things look very different to you than they do to the ordinary person. So where you might look and see someone confident from an ordinary view, that one who is practiced and well-trained and self-disciplined, self-trained, can really see the insecurity in that person. Where one appears to be helpless and insecure and unsure, one can actually see the cunning in that person. And so many times, as you grow in your, as you mature in your spiritual practice, you'll have less and less agreement with what is real as compared to the untaught, ordinary, run-of-the-mill person. Now, and I say that to you so that you won't be set up for a false narrative. And so you won't have any illusion about the practice. Because I think in Buddha land, we have a lot of illusions about the practice. And some of the illusions have become so fixed as part of the classical story that people are afraid to tell the truth about it today because, you'll like destroy people's confidence in the teachings. But the truth is the light. That's what I think. I think that the more you give the whole story instead of, painting it the way you want people to see it and branding it as something, but you're not really, giving them an opportunity to figure something out for themselves. You're guiding them in a certain way. Even, and that's why I threw out, the systematic practice, like that we have at retreats, because I'm really telling people how to think, really telling people what to look for, really crafting and molding their mind in a certain way. And it creates almost like a group consciousness because we're all doing this the same way, all doing the same thing. And so it's almost sort of like brainwashing them around our view without actually doing it, But if he talked about 84,000 gates, I don't know any teacher that knows all 84,000. So we shouldn't come up with 2 or 3 and say, this is it. And then present it to the masses as the distillation of the Buddha's teachings. It's a good thing I'm 70. Because I would probably have a long life of being ostracized by the people who are important in Buddha land if I was trying to build a career out of this. But I'm not. There's nothing that I am seeking from it but truth and realization in the inward parts. How about you? So when you really look at the life of the Buddha, his life is pretty much like if we examined the life of Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, right? At the end, it looked like he lost. He ended up on the cross crying out, my God, why have you forsaken me? And when that moment was over and he adjusted to the pain and the suffering of the moment, he said, okay, it's finished. What I had to do has been done. And when I look at the life of the Buddha, I see a very charismatic, powerful figure, full of energy and conviction around his realizations. And the fact that he could put them to the test on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and refuse to be judged by anybody particularly the priestcraft of his day, the institutional religious figures of his day. He began to speak his truth. And how so many came against him because he wasn't doing it in the traditional way. And he was doing things that people felt was outside of the bounds or the boundary of what they considered right, religious, high and holy. But by virtue of the freedom that he found in the inward parts, he proceeded on, and he did things that shocked the religious community. It was a society where the Brahmins were vegetarian and said to eat meat. The Brahmin Buddha said, don't kill it, that's what's wrong. But if it's dead, eat it, it just goes with your dead existence. It's really no difference. And the intention is the principal thing. And now, that's not to say not to be compassionate. It's talking about a religious judgment, but looking in the wrong place. So, that's what I'm talking about. His cousin Devadatta came up with all of these ideas for how to set the community apart, to make it more holy. And he said no. He had to face political intrigue because he was the son of a nobleman, or now the story is the king, and he was a prince, but really wasn't like that. And the land and the place that he was, his father was more like the governor of a state. It's kind of like that. That would be that could be word compared to today. He'd be like Cooper in North Carolina, the governor. But there was all kinds of intrigue, and in those days, you know, the kings married the daughters of other kings, because that's how they controlled wealth, controlled power, and how and preserved peace between powerful countries. Now, if you weren't powerful, I'm not interested in marrying your daughter. I'm interested in taking over your land. But if you were powerful, and you might win if we went to war, then I'd be interested in marrying your daughter and preserving peace. And I'd leave that for the next generation to work out. My son will take over your land. Something like that. I mean, watch Game of Thrones, you'll see. And so, in the places of his ministry, he was very much affected by things that went on. Like when a member of his family was married to the king of another land, province, you know, because India wasn't like a united India then like it is now. So you could say of another area. Well, he never had a child by her, but he had one by one of his slaves. And some years later, the truth was found out. And when the truth was found out, then that king was upset. And he swore to wipe out the Buddha's family. But the Buddha, he liked the Buddha, and the Buddha talked to him and talked him down. He had made then that wife, he had demoted her and the offspring to slavery, but the Buddha talked to him and he restored their position. But when he died, the son of the king went and destroyed. So, you know, the Buddha, his own family lost their position. It wasn't because he was Buddha that, like, all his family's going to be blessed, that his children and his children's children. There was not that expectation that caused one to think that they were a chosen line, you know, them and all their disciples. I mean, all their descendants for the rest of time, you know, just sort of like a ditty in one's head. I'm just talking now. And so he had to be cognizant of and aware of what was happening in the world around him, and particularly his world, because his family was of importance. Then there were kings that liked him, but the kings weren't necessarily that good. No. And they just ascribe that to, like, this is what a king has to do. Sometimes you like to go off with your head. And so, but with his growing sangha of renunciates, he had to find some way to feed them all. He needed the support of wealthy benefactors, like kings. And so he had to walk a very delicate line. I'm not saying that he lied to him. I'm saying he had to speak the truth in love. You have to have the wisdom to know how to speak with them, to tell them the truth, to try to turn them to a good path for themselves, and at the same time get what he needed to get. He didn't lose all common sense. When he got enlightened, he topped off the common sense with uncommon sense. So he faced political intrigue. There were several wars. There was the massacre of the people of his homeland, which actually was the land of Gautama. That wasn't his name. His name was Siddhartha, but Gautama. Was, you could kind of say, like his nationality, and of that he was of the Sakya clan. There was a time that when he went to a place that he'd been very popular and received, there were whispers about him and saying, don't support him. He has some wrong views concerning the religious establishment. And because of that, the king refused to continue to support it. There was a challenge of his leadership from amongst the disciples, many disciples, and even those that weren't in leadership when he went to visit them. Like in Sutta 128, they told him, this is our community, we got this, we'll handle our affairs. And how do you think he felt, and how did he handle it? He said, so be it. He packed up his got his bowl and his robe, and he left. He went down the road. There was the murder of one of his closest disciples. And his two closest disciples were Moggallon and Sariputta. Sariputta got beaten to death while he was on retreat meditating. But did you know that? So like meditation is not going to necessarily save you. Neither is being on retreat like a protection for you. I'm just saying, you got to know these things, or you'll be placing your confidence in the wrong place. And so you're like, oh, this Dharma couldn't protect Sariputta. No. Like, what am I looking for? Why am I here? And then the Buddha himself died. And he was sick before he died, because the last time he traveled, he didn't stay when he circled back around to Bamboo's Grove. He left the disciples in Bamboo's Grove, but he went and he stayed at the compound with the doctor. He was already suffering from old age and sickness. That's why he talks about old age and sickness and death. And he died, by the way. And some say it was death by poisoning. That sounds so bad. Some try to fix it up, said that couldn't be possible. Buddha couldn't go out like that. But the thing is that Buddhas don't go out. They're already out. That's why they're Buddhas. You know, we understand it from the wrong side. We just don't get it. And so that's why I say to you, don't be confused. And don't cling so tightly to fixed views. And understand that the institution is that part held together by imperfect insight. That which is in the minds of sentient beings who are not perfected. And keep reaching for the prize, the goal. Your direct awakening. And then you will walk in this world truly free. And not afraid of anything. So I was talking to the doctor today, and they did some tests. And he came back to me and he said, Panwadi, he said, are you afraid of dying? I said, no. I said, no, I'm not afraid of dying. I said, but what I am afraid of is living with a lot of disability. You know, I said, that I don't want that. He said, I'm glad. So I want to have this conversation with you then. And then he had this conversation with me. He said, I think you had a stroke. He said, now this wasn't a debilitating one, but in some tests today, there's some loss of function. He said, now, there's some things you could do to like prevent this, but I know how you feel about medicine. Like, we got to put you on a statin, we got to do this, we got to do that. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And so he said, like, you take medicine when something happens. Like, he asked me what I took this week. I said, some of the medicines you gave me like 5 years ago, like I kept them all. I didn't take them, but I still have them. I said, I was taking everything. I was taking medicine for seizures. I was taking medicine for high blood pressure. I was taking medicine for upset stomach. I took all the medicines you gave me. And he started at me and said, no, see, you take medicine when something has happened, but those medicines are to keep things from happening. I said, oh, I got it. So my A1C was like way higher. You know, my pressure was, and I've never had a pressure problem. I said, you give me medicine for pressure and I don't have hypertension. So why would I take it? You know, he said, it's to keep you from getting it. And I said, oh. So he said, so let me tell you about why I gave you, and he named a particular medicine. And he said, you see, when your pancreas stops working, I don't care what you do with your diet now. I'm telling you, oh, my diet is so good. I've cut out of this and I've cut out of that. I no longer eat the chocolate, you know, I mean, occasionally, but just in general. You know, all the things that he was trying to get me to do 15 years ago up till maybe last year, you know. And I'm just rattling off these radical changes I've made. He said, yeah, but here's the thing. All of that helps when your pancreas is working, but yours quit. It's not working. So I don't care how healthy your diet gets now, you know, you don't have the internal support to regulate the insulin. That's just it. So you gotta take the insulin, you know. And so he was just sitting down and explaining some things to me. And it was good information. And yet I can tell you the honest to goodness truth. I understood old age, sickness, and death, and that it comes to everybody. But we can't avoid it, but we can lessen it. He says, what do you think about what I'm saying? I said, that's what we teach too. But to tell you the truth, I like the Jewish version. That when, oh gosh, I can't think of the name. When he was dying and he was blessing his 12 sons. Donald, he's a Jewish patriarch.
Right.
No, must have been Jacob.
Okay.
Because it would have been the last one.
Jacob.
Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. It was Jacob then. And he was blessing his 12 children, and he was speaking over each one of them. And said, and then when and then when he finished speaking blessings over each one of his children, he crossed his feet, put his hands behind his bed, and he just head and just went. I said, that's how I want to go. When I finish doing whatever I want to do, I'm just going to close my eyes and say, bye, see y'all, and leave. I said, that's what I'm working on. He said, well, you better take these medicines then so that you can do that. So I said, okay, I will do that. And that was it. So I wanted to say to you that I don't know what your challenge is today. But this Dharma is the medicine for whatever ails you, because it treats the mind that structures a view of life and what life is. And that regardless of what's going on in the outside world, or even in your own perceived world, that you identify as whoever you are, that there can be a freedom to walk in this life unafraid and fearless and with joy, even when things are going on in your life. That's the power of the Dharma. That's what I'm saying to you. And that you can be with every circumstance or every situation that arises. Now, this is not talking about blame or whose fault it was, or what will people think, or anything like that. It's just to say that the victory of this walk is to not be afraid of the 8 worldly winds. And while one wind may be blowing in my life, a different one can be blowing in yours. And his teaching talks about a way that we can live like he lived through those 46 years, that the things that he encountered when he had to leave somewhere because he was no longer in favor with the king, and circling around and declining support because they thought like his teaching was so profound that they were going to be winners in every area of life. When they found out, like, no, because he's talking about conditionality, cause and condition, and not favoritism, then they said, oh, and they left that and they went to look for something else. And so I don't think we really get it, because we're still looking for Mr. Goodbar. And this might have been our 3rd or 4th search. I started off as a this, and then I became a that. And after I got disillusioned with that, and I went for the other. And then I became disillusioned with that, and I went for, and he's telling you nowhere to run and nowhere to hide, because you're here now. And if you don't want Samsara going in circles in the same delusion, if you don't want to encounter this again, here's what you do. And that's why I find a great joy in the practice. Not because he promised me a rose garden, but because he promised there is a state that one can enter, that they're not affected by the vicissitudes of life, and thereby they overcome life. The idea that one has to give up this and give up that and give up the other is a misunderstanding. It's that they capture, or that which binds people to things, that causes the clinging and the craving, comes to an end. And in that way, we are free. And to the extent that we taste this freedom, that is the extent that we really embody the Dharma. Suketi sent me, every morning, she sends me something. It can be 2 hearts, or it'll be, good morning, I love you. Sometimes she gives me a little quote. And it's the first thing on my phone, because she gets up early and I get up later. So it's right there. And she sent me one the other day that said, for one who mindfully develops boundless loving kindness, seeing the destruction of clinging, the fetters are worn away. And the fetters were that which shackles sentient beings to samsara. Shackles sentient beings people. You know, the Buddha, he was known for being, you know, talking about the 4 this, the 16 that, the 3 the other, the 8 something something. You know, they called him the analytical ones. But they also called them the happy ones. So now you have these 2 choices of which is the image for you, the analytical or the happy. And which one are you leaning towards? And when I think about the analytical ones, that was because they can roll off this stuff, and you know you get it after a while because you can like see it so clearly. So you can like just roll it off. Now that you can learn intellectually or memorize, and you can like spew it out. That's the talking. But the happy ones live it out. That's it's a whole different kind of experience of a relationship. You know the difference in being with somebody who's happy and who's not happy? Which would you choose? You know how you feel within yourself when you're happy and when you're not happy. Or when you're not happy but faking like you're happy. The mental pain and the torment that is there. But when one is truly, you know, in a state of happiness, and I'm not saying 24/7, sometimes you don't have to eat the whole cake. 1 slice is enough to make you like be okay with it all, you know? But when you are not happy, oh, what torment. And sometimes we're not happy because the world's not doing what we want it to do. Sometimes we're not happy because I can't make the world do what I want it to do. Sometimes we're not happy because of our station in life. Sometimes we're not happy because of our appearance in the world. If I was unhappy at being black, that'd be a sad thing. Because I can't be anything else. I keep trying to tell Siri that because she does not understand my ebonics. Whoever created Siri and programmed her did not have my frame of reference, and when I talk to her, she argues back at me all day because she doesn't understand what I'm saying to her. And we just have go at it, you know. But I'm not mad. I ain't hating. I get it. I understand. You know, that's a little joke, but actually it's not. Yeah. So I have to be happy and content within myself as I am, because that's what's, as Vestine says, because that's what's up. You know, that's what's real. And that means a lot of people are not going to accept me, not going to like me. Some don't just because I'm a woman. They told me when I came here, our women don't lead anything. Said, you're too outspoken. But I just went on with what I want to do. That was good to do. And left that alone. And while I may have been prevented from doing some things, many things, I have been able to do that have brought me happiness. My phone is going to ring because I see the contractor out there. So you might want to turn that off. You just have to wait for me. And so if we really investigate the Buddha's teachings. And we're not getting happier, but we're getting like more outraged because of the amount of truth that's in us. Back up and go in reverse, going in the wrong direction. But he talked about those, or that which shackles sentient beings to samsara. And number one was identity view. Number one. Seems like that's the hardest thing to let go of. That's where he starts. Oh, please. He starts with identity view. I am. And you can just plug in whatever you want right there. And so we're stuck on all these things. I am preacher, I am teacher, I am mother, I am father, I am husband, I am wife, I am black, I am white, I am male, I am female. It just goes on and 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 on. And it has throughout time. And he says, time to bring it to an end. Whatever you are, be that. Just be a good that. And if somebody doesn't like it, that's your problem. That's their problem. But find peace and joy in yourself. That's what he says. And that's your whole job. But when you have found it, you can lead others to it. If you haven't found it, you can't lead others to it. So then we try to enact laws then and create institutional systems. And you see what a mess that is. They've had a law against untouchability on the books since 1950. Hasn't done one thing for the Dalits. And we're not even going to talk here because I just want to stay peaceful with everybody in America because that's where I am. We've had laws on the books, but that doesn't define justice. You have segregated people according to so many discriminations that we don't even see them as discriminations. We just see it that that's the way it is. That's how blind we have become. We're getting all wrapped up in these worldly systems and connotations. And the Buddha's like, I just want to show you a way out for those who want it. And he tells us something so simple as to abandon quickly all your enmity against everyone. Everybody. Everybody. The Republicans, of course. And you're going to say the T word, definitely. Because when one invests their mind in a certain way, they lose their power. Don't lose your own power by having your energy invested in the wrong place. No, we're not going to win every battle. He never promised that we would. But he said, but what we can have is peace even in the midst of a storm. And that we can live life joyfully and we can die with no regrets. So these shackles, they're called fetters, F-E-T-T-E-R-S, because they tether us to samsara. And one by one, as we break these fetters, we become free. Even right here. Even right now. And the teachings are to encourage you. The trainings are to help discipline you. The development of the concentration is to ensure that you will be successful with your efforts. And when these come together, it creates a certain flow. And living becomes effortless. Now, people all around you will want you to be efforting. They will want to put you back into these boxes of time and planning and doing something this way and ritual and rules but don't let them. Of course, if you need them, these people, if you need them, then it puts your freedom in jeopardy. Sometimes we can do really good work. And somewhere along the line, we begin to identify with the work that we do. And then we become bound. And after a while, we roll around in that box for so long that we don't realize we're in a box. We think that's the whole world. And I'm living my freedom, stuck in a box. Then we get mad about it. And we double down on the box is the place to be. And then we forget even the taste of freedom we had. Being mindful is like this. It may not be what you heard it was. So the first fetter is identity view. The second one is doubt. When one falls into doubt, no hope. Confused at every turn. Forget what they just learned. Half-stepping because they have no conviction about anything. Do what you think is right for you to do. That's the best way to root out. And even if you're wrong, if you're living honestly in that, you'll stumble across something that'll spin you around and put you on the right path. For every temptation, there's a way of escape. The third is attachment to rules and rituals. You know, rules and rituals, they're hard. As the kids say, they're hard. But they're made for us. We're not made for them. I'm not made for the rule. The rule is designed to help give me a boundary for me to realize, actualize some good quality that I am seeking. You know. That's the purpose of it. like having a bicycle and starting with training wheels, and 10 years later you pedaling around with them training wheels. But they're designed to do something, to shore you up, so that you know how far you can lean to the left and right and not fall over. But once you know that, I mean, you can like stay with them. You can stay with them. It's like wearing training pampers. You know, when they take you out of diapers, then they put you in training pampers. You can keep the big bulkies on forever if you want to. But once you learn how to go to the bathroom, you can get to something that's a little lighter. Until you get old. That's the truth. But something changes in us, is what I'm saying. When the rule becomes supreme and paramount. And that's why, as the Buddha was entering Parinibbana, he said, get rid of all of these rules, just keep the most important ones. Because they started, he started with none. And then somebody needed a little help, some boundaries and guidelines, and he gave one. And then it was 2, and then it was 5, and then it was 10, and then it was 50, then it was 100, then it was 150, then it was 200, then it was 2. For us, I forget, what we 317? Mm-hmm. When they ordain you, when you take your higher ordination, they just stop at 10 and say, and all the rest. And then over your life as a nun, you figure out what the other 301 are, or I think it's 356 in the Mahayana or something like that. It's just a big number. That's what I'm saying. But actually, all of those numbers like filter down to do good. Stop doing evil and purify your own mind. It boils down to that. In that process, we start to know all the 8 this, the 3 that, the 4 the other. Like to train us. I loved it when apologize when I like real my memory is slipping a little bit today. He is a modern day Theravada master. No, he's dead. He's dead. The one I'm talking about.
Buddhadasa?
Nope. Like Buddhadasa, but not Buddhadasa.
Yeah,
Little chubby fat.
Ajahn Chah?
Yeah, Ajahn Chah. It's like they interviewed Ajahn Chah, and they said, they tell me that you don't keep all of the 200 and some rules of a monk. He said, they said, is that true? He said, yeah, that's true. He said, I just keep one rule. He said, well, what rule is that? He said, I keep rule of my mind. When one becomes so particular, one open and mindful to the slightest fault, one knows one can trust their mind. So there is somewhere to go on this journey. They say nowhere to go and nothing to do. That's after you get there. But there is somewhere to go. There is something that can be accomplished. And we should be diligent in seeking the prize. But we're not going to find it out there. We're only going to find it within the depths of our own heart. And what it does is it begins to overrule and renew the dependence we have on sentience as we know it. What we see and hear, what we taste and touch, what we smell and what we think, that creates an illusory world. So seeing reality as it is allowing all of that to fall away. And I know that's a scary thing. And that's why it's so incremental in its unfolding, so that we can have the confidence to walk through life fearlessly, not fearing any man. You should do a study this week on the 10 fetters and what they are. I mentioned the first 3. It doesn't mean like the third one being dependent on rites and rituals. And it doesn't mean that we don't do them. Doesn't mean we don't make progress if we don't do them. It just says simply to understand the purpose and how to use it for internal washing, internal cleansing, for sweetening the mind, for liberating the heart, that one can truly love being kind. Then it's easy to take up a practice such as seeing all living beings as one's mother. Because we know that as the mind thinks, so we are. And that changes then how we relate to each other. I always ask the question, and I'm through, what are you looking for and why are you here? And people say they don't know, and they come and then they look for this structured thing. And that would just be me pouring something into you. But it's to allow you to step away from commitments so that you can really examine what's inside, what's really there, what is your fear, what is your hidden thing that binds you and gives you the courage to set yourself free. To be able to face changes and challenges and criticisms by the power structures who would want to continue to control you. Look up the other 7. And your assignment for this week is to reflect on the one that really jumps out at you. All of them we have to rub away. Actually, if you take care of identity view, that takes care of most of it. I mean, you have other things, like conceit, and conceit, and that. He said that's the last one. There's the conceit I know, and when we give up that conceit I know, finally, we break away from the conceit I am. It's not possible apart from letting go of the conceit I know. So look them up. The sensual desires and ill will things that we think like just a little bit of something right here. And when one takes these vows like we're going to do on Sunday, it means going deeper into the surrender of the very things we cling to that make us us. It's the willingness to go deeper, to go to the places that scare us. And that's the purpose of the vows. So it's a level of purification, and I can only offer it to myself. No one can offer it to me. No one can do it for me. And it's based on my own desire. I only love as much as I desire to love. Yeah? Nobody's fault out there. I only rise to my own level of desire. But when I desire to go deeper, it's not that there's so much more that I need to know. It's that I develop the zeal and the courage and the strength to perfect my own qualities, to be acceptable to myself, my standard. Not Paniwadi's standard or the preceptor's standard, certainly not the institutional Buddhism's standard, my standard. He said, a monk is one inwardly. The robe was for covering you, to keep gadflies away and to keep the elements, the rain and the sunshine off of you. I think I'm going to end right there. That's a lot to think about. Look up the 10 fetters. With fresh eyes, contemplate what they mean. And with direct application, what do you find in there for you to work on? Nobody knew, just me, myself, and I. What in there could arouse me to a deeper penetration? This is what we will do every day this week. And let's come back prepared to talk next week. So I'm not talking next week. So we'll sit here for 55 minutes or an hour if nobody else has anything to share. Okay? Thank you all so much for your attentiveness today. The announcement about wearing white and bringing flower and incense, that was for anyone who's, what do you call it? It's not repeating. They're
renewing.
Renewing. Thank you for renewing their lay vows. And then, and we have some others taking additional vows on Sunday. So all of you who can come out, we look forward to seeing you. May you be well and happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you and no danger, no fear. May you always be able to meet the inevitable difficulties of life. Remember, these things are not happening to us. These are the fruits of conditions, the ripening of causes. So what was going to happen has already happened. This is just the fruit of it. What will you establish today that will change your future?